What's up, Wildcats? It's episode 7 of the TNH Roundup. My name is Josh Morrill. I'm the executive editor here at the New Hampshire. It's August 30th at 7:59 p.m., and I am joined by...
I'm Anna Kate Muncie, and I'm the managing editor.
And I'm Hannah Donahue, and I'm the content editor.
And first things first, I just wanted to say that our first print issue came out this past Thursday, the 27th. So we dispersed them around campus, so please be sure to pick one up. And the first topic we wanted to get to today was an event that transpired on campus this past Wednesday night, the 26th. It was an ice cream social and bonfire hosted around Christensen and Williamson Hall. And it was planned by Residential Life. And it was all going okay. It was outside. And on the night of the event, the New Hampshire acquired photos of students both without masks on and also not social distancing. And there was upwards of 25 kids, which is the CDC recommended limit. And that night, Erica Mance, the spokeswoman for the university, came out with a statement.
All right, so she said, as first-year students begin to move into our residence halls, university staff held a planned ice cream social with acceptable physical groups broken down by residence hall floors. As the event dispersed, the smaller groups naturally came together, resulting in the photos depicting an inappropriate-sized gathering. While the vast majority of students were wearing masks, we will work to ensure the planning and execution of future social events meet our COVID standards from beginning to end. We appreciated the rapid response of our Residential Life staff and the cooperation of students.
All right, so just to basically sum up kind of what happened, basically students had started out in kind of these smaller groups, and I believe they were even by residence hall floor. But we were told as the gathering kind of winded down, students sort of started to migrate to the center, maybe towards the fires or the ice cream, whatever it was. And that caused this pretty large gathering to occur. And we were told that happened towards the end of the night when students should have been heading back into their dorms. But that's kind of, the photo showed that part where they had all kind of condensed into one area.
Yeah, interesting couple of things about the statement saying that it was toward the end of the night. We received that photo at about 9:15 on Wednesday night, and the event was not scheduled to end until 10 o'clock. So that is the only concerning thing, where if it was the end of the event, it wasn't. It was still scheduled to go on a little bit further. So maybe it's possible that they, noticed that people were starting to gather a little bit, and that's what prompted an early ending. But you never know.
Yeah, another sizable aspect that kind of led to the downfall of it was the fact that there was ice cream and the food aspect. And Senior Vice Provost of Student Life, Ken Holmes, alluded to that, and he basically said that the administration is going to not have these events anymore with food, because then you got to have your mask off, and that kind of gives the feeling to the students that, we don't really need to have these masks on, we don't really need to adhere to the guidelines. So they're trying to rethink, where they're going to have these events, because also with it being near Christensen and Williamson, when they wanted the kids to disperse, they're going back to the same place. So all the students are going there at once. So it's hard for them not to kind of gather up. So they're also going to look at the locations as well.
There were very mixed student reactions when news about the gathering spread among the student body. Some people were really upset and concerned at the fact that it was a university-hosted event, and we're expected to follow all of these guidelines when, at first glance, it didn't even seem like the university was following themselves. But after the statement, it does make a little bit more sense. But it was interesting to see, in the unofficial UNH class Facebook groups, there were people saying come on guys, we want to be here. Let's get it together. Classes haven't even started yet. We need to be aware of our actions. So it is really nice to see a very socially aware group of students coming together for this one common cause. And I'm hoping that will eventually kind of get us to stay longer on campus than other colleges across the country. So
I also know I think we briefly mentioned this last week, and then we had an article about it in this past issue, but the COVID incident report form that was recently kind of put together, and Ken Holmes kind of detailed that in an email. There were 9 reports about that bonfire event on that incident reporting form. So that's kind of a good example of hopefully how that will be used, kind of when people see something that's kind of concerning, they can submit the photo and then there will be an explanation that follows, because we all know how a photo or a statement can be totally taken out of context. So I really hope that reporting form is continually used for kind of really good communication and back and forth between us and the students and administration. I think that's a good thing for this semester.
Yeah. And as Hannah was alluding to, we have a lot of, health conscious students that have been coming out and advocating for, social distancing and wearing masks and everything. But something that the student body president, Nick Fitzgerald, and Ken Holmes both said were basically that this happened because they're freshmen and that they were excited and they were kind of brushing it off, with those kinds of explanations. But I think it was obviously both the administration and residents' life's fault because there wasn't enough staff there, first of all. So they should have known that this was happening and that they can't let residential life plan these events without some type of administrational say in it. And when we had an interview with Ken Holmes, he basically said that, they need to have more administrational say in these, and that he trusts residential life, but obviously this event kind of puts less, trust in them.
Another kind of bigger picture thing that I feel like this little bonfire incident kind of brought to light was how important it's going to be this semester for students, student leaders, faculty, administration, to think things all the way through and think about every possible scenario. It's the same thing when you're making a plan with your friend for the night or when you're deciding what to do during the day. It's the same thing, I think, for sports teams and for clubs. You have to think about every possible situation. You have to think things all the way through, because with something like COVID-19, there are just so many different moving pieces. And I think that what happens when you don't think things all the way through is something like this that could have been a lot worse than it was, I would say.
Yeah, and in that interview with Ken Holmes, he basically said that the university does need to do a better job of doing that, but also it's the first time that all of us are going through it. So sometimes it's kind of hard to think of every single thing. So he basically said that, they're trying to do that, but, things like events like this will help them think of more, aspects of what's going to happen. So another fluid and ongoing situation at UNH is the self-testing plans that the university is going to implement starting Monday, August 31st. And every graduate and undergraduate student will have to be tested twice a week, self-test twice a week, and it'll be split up by different colleges.
So SEPS is going to be going Monday and Thursday mornings. Paul will be going Monday and Thursday afternoons. COLA will be going Tuesday and Friday mornings. Health and Human Services will be going Wednesday and Saturday mornings. COLSA and the Thompson School will be going Wednesday and Saturday afternoons. CARSI, NRES, I don't know what that is. CARSI, NRES, graduate interdisciplinary programs, continuing education, CATS, or no college designation are on Tuesday and Friday afternoons. There is an exception. If you are a student athlete, you will be tested Wednesday afternoons and Saturday mornings. Do not follow the testing schedule for your college. If you have a morning drop-off time, that time is from 8 a.m. to noon, and your afternoon drop-off is from 1 to 5 p.m. The drop-off locations include HOCO by the turnstiles inside the main door, the West Edge parking lot, there's a drive-up drop box. In Stillings, it'll be also by turnstiles inside the main door. There will be one in the Hamel Rec Center lobby, one at Philly by turnstiles inside main door, a lot at the tunnel entrance, the Health and Wellness lobby, Diamond Library under the front covered walkway, in Kingsbury in the lobby in entrance facing Cirques, and Spalding under the awning. So those are all places that you can go to drop off your test. It's pretty flexible. They've really like spread them out across campus, so they're accessible for all students. But yeah.
So we just thought we'd do kind of a little bit of a visual an explanation about the self-testing process, just because there's definitely been like some questions, some concerns about how to do it. And the university has given out a lot of really helpful information on it, which is also available on their coronavirus website under the COVID self-testing tab. But we thought we'd just kind of go through on the screen and share the ways to do it, the order in which you should kind of complete the little tasks, and then ultimately where to drop it off at the locations Hannah just mentioned. Okay. So the first, can you guys hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the first step is going to be to label your barcode labels, and those were all included in this pack that everyone got when they got tested at the WIT. And so basically, these are the little labels that you get. And so what you'll do is you'll fill out 2 of them with the date and time. Everyone's are personalized for themselves. And then you want to prepare your vial. So you would put one of the labels on the little vial and then the other one on the bag. And then definitely make sure you wash your hands with soap and water, use hand sanitizer like they said. You want really clean hands, really just feel clean, ready for your test. And then you would prepare for your collection. I'm not going to do this part, but you would take out the swab. And then they explain this in our test at the WIT, but what you would do is take the swab and kind of do the inside of each nostril where it says 15 seconds. And then repeat on the other side. And then you would take the swab and put it tip down into this vial. And then it says to snap the swab handle by bending it firmly against the lip of the vial and dispose of the remaining piece. And then you want to screw the lid to the vial on, put it back into your bag that has its label on it. And then you would drop it off at your whatever location is closest to you.
So the last thing we wanted to mention on that was that if you don't end up getting your test on time, you will get an email within 24 hours after that, and then you'll be instructed to pass that test in within another 24 hours, just to keep the testing timing intact, and it'll just help the lab function better. And also to get that instructions that we just put up, you can just go to the UNH COVID testing website, and they also have a video above it instructing it as well. And one reservation that I had was that UNH hasn't really implemented a real, you ever have days where like words in English aren't like a thing in your brain? Okay. Because I feel like that's every day.
I read an email today from Paul, and I thought it said call college. So
I think I'm dyslexic. I actually think so. But that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah. I have those moments as well.
I think you could call it like a workshop or like a tutorial. More than the 10 seconds that we got while they were doing it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And one reservation that I had was that UNH hasn't really set forth like an actual tutorial and implemented, something like tactical that we can have that's like, cemented in and gives us a step-by-step process. Like obviously online they have, resources that we can use, but actually an in-person like example would probably help us out a lot.
I totally agree. And I know that when we went to the WIT, at least for me, when I got my test, the person performing my test while he was doing it kind of talked me through what he was doing. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that kind of doesn't really think about what people are saying to me when something's being shoved up my nose. So, and that was kind of, obviously we could ask questions, but I totally agree with you, Josh. I have a feeling there was some extensive training that the people who did our testing went through, and it would have been nice. I don't know exactly how they would do it, maybe online, maybe some sort of like info session or workshop you could go to, but I think a little bit more in terms of how to do it would have been beneficial.
I would have really liked to have had someone there while I did it myself, or I haven't done it yet, but so I'm not just going right for the real deal. I have a moment to do it and have someone be no, you don't do it like that. You do it like this.
Yeah. And I think maybe the test at the WIT should have been that, someone with you while you do it. Maybe that would have been helpful, but obviously they want everyone to have good test results the first time, right? Or correct results as they're coming back to school. So, there's no, easy solution to it, but I just wish that there was something more, tactical that they could have done.
Speaking of if you do not submit your test on time or at all, UNH sent out an email today announcing the creation of Wildcat Pass, which is going to allow students to be able to see what their current status is, whether they have a negative test or they don't. And it's basically a way that's permission to be on campus. They said, beginning tomorrow, August 31st, any university employee may ask you to show your valid Wildcat Pass. Some examples may include when you go to class, meet the professor, use Hamel Rec, or enter a dining hall. And they did say it is extremely important that you check your Wildcat Pass now to update that and make sure that you are in compliance for the first day of classes.
Yeah, and basically they implemented this just for the safety of those university, faculty and staff, and also other students, just so they're not, blind to if someone, either is positive or they haven't got their test yet or test results back yet. Because I know a lot of faculty were really worried about 16,000 students coming back from all over the country, and they just want to have, a safety net to know these students are clear, they're not positive for COVID, and that it's safe for us to meet with them. And going through it today, the main thing that me, my friends, and other people that were doing it didn't comply with was the quarantine attestation, which is basically just a form with one question that said the quarantining rules, where if you live outside of New England, you have to quarantine for 14 days. And obviously, if you're inside of New England, you don't have to adhere to that. So that was the main thing that students had not done yet. So once you log into that link that they gave you, you'll be able to see what you have and haven't completed. So please complete those so you can go on campus starting the 31st. And if you are complied with it, it'll show a big green check on your screen. So if you have that, you are all set.
All right, so this is what the My Wildcat Pass looks like. If it is valid, it does have a date and time of when it is being looked at. So sorry guys, screenshots are not going to work with this one. But if you do have a valid pass, this is what it will look like. I'm not quite sure what this QR code does yet, but I'm sure we will find out soon.
I think this new Wildcat Pass technology, we all had kind of wondered if something similar to that would be in place, just because it's, like we talked about, it's really hard to keep track of 16,000 students with different living situations and schedules and testing situations. So I think kind of basing it online and kind of accessible on a desktop or a phone or anything like that, I think that's the best way to keep people accountable and to keep track of things. I can't think of another way that would have been better for this. So I'm really hoping that it works the way it's designed to, and that students kind of take it seriously, and it's kind of checked regularly too.
Yeah, and I feel like we all felt like something like this was coming, because they can't have nothing, and then students and faculty are blind to if some people haven't complied to different things. So I feel like maybe UNH wanted something more with the ability to contact trace virtually and have different aspects like that, but with legal implications and different complications like that, I feel like this is the next best thing, and the implementation of this will do what they feel is necessary, which is just keep the integrity of the campus as it is and the safety as it is. And one last thing that we wanted to mention was that the COVID hotline at UNH is starting the 31st of August. the same day, Monday, the start of classes. It is 603-862-2020. So if you have anything to report, please call that. And the email for that as well is covid.response@unh.edu. So as we mentioned last week, UNH has come up with this platform where all students, faculty, staff, anyone who is curious can see the testing results at the campus. And as you can see right here, 14,061 cases have been, 7,500 from students have been negative and 13 have been positive, which is a 0.17% positive rate. In the faculty, it's just over 1,200 negative cases and 3 positive. And staff, it's been just over 4,200 negative cases and 14 positive. There have been 0 positive cases from contractors and other people within the university. And just over 11,000 of those cases have been done in the Durham campus, and 26 have been positive, which is most of the positive cases out of them. And UNH Law has 2 other ones, and UNH Manchester has 0 positive cases.
So one thing I kind of thought it would be good to talk about a little bit was the university's pre-arrival testing program that we've kind of been talking about the last few weeks. But I just wanted to express how I feel like I think it has really helped UNH and New Hampshire kind of manage their cases, at least so far. We've seen a lot of colleges kind of make national news for having pretty large outbreaks. Granted, they might be a little bit farther along in their semester than we are. But one example I thought of was the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And their college newspaper, the Daily Tar Heel, reported on the end of July that the university would not require pre-arrival tests for students. And then obviously it's kind of been all across the news, but basically they had a very large outbreak on campus and now have switched to remote classes after just about a week of everyone being back. So I have kind of their test results up right here. So that first week, the 17th through the 23rd, they had a 32.2% positive rate for the testing that they did do. So I think that, which was 505 positive cases. So I think that kind of highlights the importance of this pre-arrival testing and having students have that negative test before they arrive on campus. I think that adds a layer of, well, obviously it's a very smart thing to do, but I think it adds a layer of comfort and just reassurance that we're kind of preparing for what could happen as opposed to kind of a situation like that.
Yeah, and the whole point of the pre-arrival testing system is basically to create that bubble type of vibe where, various sports leagues and companies have kind of done that, where if we get the kind of weed the positives out of the bubble per se, and we get a bunch of people that are negative and keep them all in one kind of area, it's a lot harder to get positive cases because we're all around negative people, So I think it's a no-brainer to do pre-arrival, because then you can weed out all the ones that, shouldn't be there. So I feel like that's the reason why there's been a lot of positives in other places. And, say the 30 positive cases that we've had so far, if those come to campus, that can turn into a lot more than 30. So it's kind of like a trickle-down effect, cause and effect, and it was a very smart thing for UNH to do. And we'll see probably a big difference between us and those colleges that you just mentioned because of it have been done. And
we also wanted to talk a little bit about University Day, or U Day, this year. So U Day is an event that's held traditionally in the beginning of September every school year. And every club, student organization gets to set up a table. And there's lots of free food and games, and students, pretty much all first-year students, a lot of, I would say, upper-class students as well, walk through, talk with members of organizations, and kind of get a feel for what they want to be involved in. But obviously a huge event like that can't take place this year. So U Day will be taking place virtually this Wednesday, September 2nd. So like I said, it'll be taking place virtually this year through Zoom and through some different kind of online platforms. And so just a general overview of how it'll work. I'm pretty sure, so students will be able to select their interests or clubs, specific clubs they're interested in, or just kind of general things. Like someone might say, oh, I really want to learn more about the New Hampshire. Or someone might say, oh, I really want to learn more about journalism and broadcast and publication. And so then they would have the option to meet with people within those organizations. I believe there will be 2 different ways to kind of communicate online. There will be like a chat room feature type thing where we could do Q&A, or you'll have the opportunity to speak one-on-one with one of us or one member from the organization. So it'll definitely be different, but I think it could be a really fun event and at least a little bit of normalcy for first-year students from 3:30 to 6:30.
Thanks so much for watching this week's episode of TNH Roundup. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube at the New Hampshire. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything you want us to discuss, you can email us at tnhstaff@gmail.com, and we will see you next week.